We have the Atari 2600 Darth Vader console. If I turn it on with nothing in it, black screen at the moment. Pop Adventures of Tron. And in this case, it glitched. But there we go. Now we're good. My best score is in the 92,000, I think, or 97,000. Unlike the last game, I feel like there's actually a chance that I could reach 100,000 on this one because I've reached close to it before. So on this one, you can just press the fire button, I believe, or down. I think it was down. And it will start the game. Oh, that was a silly way to lose a life to start off. But I need to practice, so I'm not going to restart or anything. I am on B difficulty too, for what it's worth. Take the 2-for-1 whenever I can get it. Oops. That was very much a mistake. Let's see where we're at. bad move. Got lucky there, not gonna lie. Definitely got lucky there as well. Bad move. 61,600 is not a bad first start, though. Let's hit reset and down. And all of a sudden it feels really slow again. I'm resetting that. Definitely resetting that. Ready for it to get fast again, I'll tell you what. Always glad to get to 2 and 1. Okay, I'm restarting. That was bad. That was really terrible. When you figure I'm only going for 100,000, I'm really already like 1/10 of the way there almost. But it gets very difficult very quick in comparison. Wait for 1, 2, 3. get for getting risky there. I'm starting to remember some of the strategies. One of them involves not missing every time you jump. I'm starting to get it, though. I'm starting to remember. Yeah, that was too close for my liking. Close for my liking, at least. Go. Realizing a strategy I've never thought of before that I like, though, and it's get these ones up top taken care of sooner rather than later, because they are by far the most dangerous, I think. Because the other ones you can kind of take your time coming back down to them once you can see what's below here. If I actually just hustle to get up here. Take my time, like I say, kinda knowing what's coming. It's the not knowing what's coming and how soon it's gonna come there that makes it dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous anyway, but it's more dangerous. So yeah, don't even try to take these right off the top. Get these moments here, okay? That was not what I wanted to do, but... Okay, so now, it's not like it's not dangerous, but I know what I'm up against, and that's less dangerous. Still killed me, but I think there's going to be something to be said for that as a strategy. Go after it. Go up top first. Get him out of the way. And clean up down low. Yeah, that's way easier. It's not knowing which side they're going to come from. That makes them especially dangerous up there. Again, it's not like it's not dangerous down here, it's just you know what's coming. That may be one of the most important strategies yet. Still works against you, though. All right. Now it's super slow. Let's try the same sort of strategy in a way. Let's get up to the top within reason here. There's only so much you can do when they're that slow. That's not necessarily going to blow the doors wide open, but it ain't going to be far off. If you can grab them on the way, then all the more power to you, but I do feel like the winning strategy is get the top ones out of the way as soon as possible. Oops. Not necessarily even first, just as soon as possible. Don't make any special concessions to get the earlier ones. Yep. And then the second you can get on these. Spacing's not the best here. Okay, there we are. Let's take advantage of the situation as I say as I can. Have the right idea, just jump the gun a bit. Oh, I already got the top ones. not exactly what I have in mind. I'll take it. Ah. That was luck, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of surprised that didn't happen. That's one nice thing is you can't, if you realize that you're heading towards danger, you can't slow the elevator. And there's times when it makes sense to do so. If it hadn't appeared right when it did, that should have, could have, would have ended better. There you go. Alright, 66,400. Better. It will do better. And slow motion again. I think part of it is that lulls you into it is this first stage is so slow. Part of it really is spacing, though, too. Got lucky, not gonna lie. Anytime you gotta jump a tank, it's dangerous. It's better if you don't do that. Better if you put yourself in a position where you don't have to, I should say. Here. Okay, so we're gonna get here the better. Not exactly what I had in mind, but I'll take it. Definitely not what I wanted to do. I'm glad to take that. Got lucky on that as well. Get up here while you can. Let's get there ASAP. Not at all what I wanted. That's where the solar sailor can actually mess you up. If you're not wanting to jump on it and you accidentally jump on it, it's bad news. Alright, you jump back over here, get out of here while we can. on. Should not have survived that, but I did. Not at all to my liking here. Alright, let's get you out of here. It's not going to work out well. Sure that was going to work better than it did. It didn't. That's what happens when you start to panic. That's even worse. 80,500. All right. Not gonna get to 100,000 at that rate. I'm telling you now. But I do think that I'm getting some of the correct tactics to get to 100,000. Getting back into the swing of it to some extent. Yeah, it's another one of those where going back to stage 1 feels like molasses. Definitely. Without a doubt. And I swear there's times where I'll end up losing lives there because it lulls you into that, you know, confidence of like, oh, this isn't difficult. It's like, oh, I lost a life too as a result. Especially after you've had a really good run and everything was moving really fast. I'm more likely to lose a life on the earlier stages as a result of it because I'm not used to it being so much slower. Alright. Well, we're just going to keep jumping at that. And missing. There's a solar sailor that'll take you back where you came from. Or take you further along. It's just a free ride. I've already paid. Alright. Let's take a look here. Yeah, plus you expect to be able to get out of the way and you can't. That's exactly right. But I'm realizing that the most dangerous portion of the stage is up top. Because you do not know what is going to come at you, and you don't know which direction it's going to come from. So I think the key to doing well at this is knocking out that top one as soon as possible. Especially as we get into later levels. When you get an opening, to get up there, you gotta get, because that happens too. And you can space these in such a way where, if you're smart about it, and you get your timing down, yeah, when the bullets pass through the non-existent neck, Berserk is a fun feature. Yeah, missing items. Yeah, exactly. You clearly know your retro stuff, knowing that about Berserk. And you're exactly right. When you accidentally, it goes through the neck and like, whew, I'm safe. I'm not going to take a chance. Alright, now get these out of the way, get out of there. I just assume at that point that there's probably a tank coming and it's going to be quick, it's going to take me out. By the time, yeah, and then, there you go. He came from the right, so it makes sense for you to take... If he comes from the right, it makes sense for you to not do that, first of all. To give yourself extra time. He's coming from the left, so I need to be on the left and come from underneath. That's an example, but I mean... Time it well, and you can make it work. Alright, but right here, it makes sense for me to just... I don't know if you've probably noticed this, but you have to cross the middle in order to have the elevator work. Elevator doesn't work if you don't cross the middle threshold. There you go. Yeah, I grew up with this one, actually. I had a friend across the street who owned this game. So I've definitely spent my time with it. There we go. He came from the right, so I take the right. That was dangerous. I took too long up there. You're out. Get this. Because the beauty is once you've taken out the top, then you know you can see what's happening in all of the other levels, and you can adjust your planning accordingly. It's that first one that's dangerous, because you don't know if they're coming from the left or the right. So ultimately, right there, what I just did is how you should take these levels out, is get up to the top as soon as possible, take everything out from there, and then just work your way down. If everything works the way that you hope for, then that's how you do it. Because it's not like I can take my time here, but at least I can see what's coming. I can prepare for that. Over here, so that's where that's gonna happen. Oh. And yeah, thankfully, going down the slide, you can slow that down if you need to, if it's going to be dangerous. The same way that you can slow the elevator that's going up if you know that you're going into danger too. It only slows you down so much, though. So if it's a real boneheaded move, it ain't going to save you at all. But here. Take you out and out. Alright. Clearly this is going to be sensitive. Yeah, take the solar sailor in that case. Why not? Get out of here ASAP. That's why. Oh yeah, passing down through the floors is your only way to survive some of this stuff. Dangerous. I'll take it. You just drop right back down. And out you go. Oh, why am I doing up here? I don't need anything up there. Oh, that was stupid. Alright, let's try again. Yeah, no, once you've gone through this middle line right there, it makes it to where your elevators work too, so... That jumping back and forth right there is a really good strategy. About whether you should approach from the left or right hand side, depending on what's above you. And there's times where you want to use that center IO line, but more often it's just drop down. It's actually a really underappreciated Atari game. I don't think it's particularly common. Yeah, see right there? I was running into danger, so I pressed down while the elevator was going up, and it slows it down. Alright. Get out of there! Alright, let's see if I can... Always love the 2-for-1s. When you can get 2-for-1s, take them. When you can do so safely, that is. Tank time already, huh? They're approaching from the left, so you come up from underneath on the left. They're approaching from the right, so you come up from underneath on the right. Buys you that extra time. Third. Nope. Don't like it. Don't like it. There. There it is. I am ready for this to be faster, though. Yes! I saw you say M Network right there. The Intellivision or M Network games were on my to-be-avoided list growing up. I think this was because of schoolyard word of mouth. Okay, that makes sense. And it seems like some of them are not as good. I mean, I grew up loving Intellivision stuff too, though. Some M Network games are good. I think this is perhaps one of my favorites. Like, I'll come back to this one and have a lot of fun. Like, it's good arcade-style action. There's some strategy involved. Yeah, I don't know if they can fire at you on that lower stage, which makes a difference, too. It's possible that later the tanks can fire at you on the bottom. But that time, he clearly had the opportunity to fire at me and didn't. I'm curious, is he going to fire at me here? Nope. You can jump over a tank, too. Not that it's advisable, because it's not easy. Ah, that totally makes sense, you know, because it was so hard to tell the carts apart from Intellivision carts, so friends wasted money worn them off. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Because, yeah, they have them shaped on the top half like they are in television carts. That's a solid point. I'd never considered that. But we were that lucky household that had both the television and the Atari. And even later, the ColecoVision, so... I've come to realize that not everyone had that luxury growing up, so... I thank my parents for that much, for sure. Oh, very nice. The Odyssey 2. You know, I bought my first Odyssey 2 a few years ago. Yeah, an Atari, of course. And we had the Commodore 64, of course. Which, that, I think, is another piece of gaming history that sometimes gets left out. That's pretty important. Because the Commodore had some of the coolest games ever. And you don't hear it get talked about a lot. It was around the time that the E.T., like the video game crash of 1983 was happening. You had video games still happening. And Commodore was putting out phenomenal games. And EA was one of the big players for that. Alright, here we go. 50,000. Alright, let's take a look here. We're going to drop back over to here. I need to get out of the way. I had a feeling that tank would probably be coming. That was just bad. The spacing was such that that was going to be tricky. Okay, let's see what we got here. But again, at least I don't have to go to the top anymore. That much is nice. Almost take my time now. You have a friend that still sends out emails once a year from his Commodore 64 and goes on endlessly about it. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I distracted myself there. It was bad. Yeah, no, I mean... I will say this, I have yet to meet a Commodore owner that bought every one of their games. Like, not that that's necessarily good, but at the time, you know, it made it to where when your junior high friends are bringing games that you can copy off and stuff, it's, is what it is there. Alright, let's see if I can't get this right. I still got 40,000 to go. I'm almost definitely on my last life here. Yeah. Drop down. Yeah, or any, exactly. Now, we bought some legit ones, too, like Impossible Mission. I have the legit copy of that, and it's... Oh, they can absolutely shoot at you later. Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, so once you reach about 60,000 points, they can shoot at you on the lower level. The tanks will not fire at you early on. They will absolutely start firing on you probably around 60,000 points. No, one of my friends that I met at Portland Retro Gaming Expo is this gentleman who still does Commodore 64 style stuff as well. Oh yeah, there was no piracy scene on the Coleco Adam, so you didn't learn about copies until later than most. Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, from what I've heard, like, I wanted an Adam. You know, we obviously had all of the other things, though. But you know, because we had a ColecoVision, it's like, you know, you want all the systems. But with the Atom, from what I've come to understand, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it sounds like about half of the units that they shipped on the Atoms were defective. So Coleco took a major hit on that because there were so many of those computers that ended up having problems that had to be returned back just because they were defective. I can't imagine that helped things for them. So I can say that the Atom is still one of the systems. Nice! Glad to hear yours is going strong at least. I have yet to own an Atom, and that I wouldn't mind getting my hands on one of them. But I would not know without some research, I would not know what the go-to games are that are amazing to play for the system. So I will gladly take your recommendations on that. Yeah, I have, it's my Xbox 360 is not a day one, but my first one that I own still functions as well. So I know I dodged a bullet. Actually, I have like 3 360s, and none of them have actually had a red ring. So same thing where I know that and some of them have been like secondhand where it's like, I don't want this 360 anymore. Do you want it? Yeah, I'll take it. There's some of them that aren't functioning fully, but none of them have actually red ringed on me. Shockingly. I think there's probably at least one of them that's very close to it, where if I played it much, it would. Yeah, no, there's a number of them. I imagine that they've probably got Atom emulators, though, too. Like, what are the must-play Atom games, in your opinion? I wonder if there's any crossover. Like, at that point, you had companies that were making games for multiple different computers, too. So it may turn out that some of the amazing go-to games for the Atom were also on other computers. That would not be too surprising. Oh, Donkey Kong Jr., Buck Rogers, yes. The arcade ones, I'm sure, were... Well, because what I distinctly remember about ColecoVision, specifically, was seeing Donkey Kong on the original ColecoVision and thinking, it actually looks like the arcade. If you look at what Donkey Kong was on the Atari and the Intellivision, and then compare that to the ColecoVision, they're like, if you look at the ColecoVision and the arcade of Donkey Kong side by side now, you could see a major difference. But at the time, in like the early 80s, it was like, oh my god, it actually looks like the arcade. This is crazy. Much better on cassette than on cartridge. Alright, good to know with that. Oh, very nice. You know the one that surprised me was Donkey Kong on the Texas Instruments. I had the world record score for a while, very short while, on the TI-99 4A version of Donkey Kong. And then I think a number of people saw that the score wasn't that difficult, and so now I have third. Now I have third place on it. But for a short while there, probably maybe a couple of weeks, I had the top spot. Yeah, that was just bad. Atom EM is what I'm used to. Nice! And I believe that the Coleco one, yeah, they make the same people that make that emulator probably. That would make sense, because there's a Coleco EM as well. Yeah, TI-99 Donkey Kong, and I have the actual cartridge for that. I want to say that was another thing I got at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, is the legit cartridge copy of that. And it didn't even cost that much. It was just a few bucks, I think. Yeah, you shot at me even at 48,000 here, so I'm starting to rethink my whole thing about them not being able to shoot on the bottom. 50,000. Let's go over here. Now you clearly know your retro stuff there, Brad Spit. Is it how would you put that as far as how to pronounce it properly? Brass bit, brace bit. That was lucky. I'm not gonna lie. Oh my goodness! Playing with fire here. Long A. Oh, Hunt the Wumpus is so fun, and I do have that one. That is one of them I do have. So I don't remember my English rules for what constitutes a long A, but I would imagine that's bray, where you say A. Braze bit. Like to rhyme with graze. Like it grazed me. The bullet grazed me. Braze bit. My apologies. Oh, it's the other way? If you can give me a word that it rhymes with. My apologies. I do not recall which one the long A is versus the short A. Grass. Brass. Brass bit. Okay. Cool. Ah! Alright, this is where it starts getting to... Gets the heart pumping. And those jumps start counting too. It's nice when they give you a nice little gap between. Brass bit. That's cool. Got any specific meaning to the name? And why brass bit too? I mean, possibly because maybe brass bit 1 is taken. Original account unrecoverable. Got it. That makes sense. That is a bummer when that happens too. For anything where you've got a name that you can't recover. That's always a bummer. Well, probably almost always a bummer at least. That's gonna be bad. Let's get you out of here. I need to get that. Ah! I thought I had time. I did not. I did not. Alright, let's get you. Oh man, really? Okay, here. Okay, let's take this. Let's take this. Oh, I don't like that spacing at all. Drop. That is how it's done. Alright. That was probably not how it's done, though. Let's drop this. Oh! That was just silly. Alright. Try it again. Slow! So slow. Okay, we're gonna get a better job of this time. Let me get it this time, I think. At the very least, I want to try to get into the 90,000 range again here. A lot of these lives that I've been losing have been for boneheaded moves on my part. probably need to start using the Solar Sailor as part of my strategy too. Like that. Wanted something short and pronounceable. Brass, and it was oh, nice. That's so nice when you can come up with anything that doesn't have Google hits already. Okay, that's too early. That's too early. We definitely got to restart that. That's way too early to be a losing life. That goes right along with what I was talking about earlier. You start getting into a lulled sense of security, figuring that these early levels aren't that difficult. And then that happens even as I'm discussing it. So, predictably, it is pretty much as I was discussing. And they're so slow at that point. It's just... You want them to hurry up, and then they start hurrying up, and it's not the best either. Alright, got there. That's almost about as satisfying as playing Missile Command and taking out two missiles. I mean, taking out... Yeah, two missiles with one hit. Two or more. I'd say Missile Command belongs also in the top 10 for the best Atari games. Really, without question. So it's crazy that the gentleman who programmed that for the Atari as a bonus that year got a Thanksgiving turkey. That was his big bonus. That was his big attaboy. And he framed that and quit the company and started iMagic. I want to say I learned that from the documentary that Howard Scott Warshaw partially put together, Once Upon Atari. Part of me wants to quit, but nah, we're not going to quit with that one. We're going to take that loss and do better. Yep, you got it exactly right. Atari very much to blame for Activision and the Magic had they just treated their programmers better. And that was Warner. Let's be real, that was Warner that ended up doing that, where they tried to run it like a regular business. And the big quote about how the janitors were no more, you know, that the programmers were no more important than the janitors. But, you know, I can understand and appreciate kind of where they're coming from that. But if you don't have programmers, your janitors cannot step in and write a million-selling program. Yeah, they easily could have kept the programmers. You're exactly right. They just made some very bad decisions. And really, I mean, who knows if the industry would be what it is? Because they opened that whole floodgates where everybody could start making games for the Atari. And they create Activision, the first third-party company. Ultimately, it ended up being a good thing for gamers. But, definitely not for Atari. Well, I can't even say that, because at that point, you know, they're making better games for the system, too. Now, I definitely got to restart that. That's ridiculous. Because if I'm thinking of the best games that were ever made for the Atari, a number of them are going to be Activision. Yeah, probably would have delayed the inevitable. That's really all. You are probably right about that as well. But when I think of the best games ever made for the Atari 2600, a good number of those are going to be from third-party companies. You have Pitfall and Mega Mania, and like really half of the Activision games, River Raid, Kaboom, Stampede for that matter. These are all just super high-quality games. And Frogger by Parker Brothers. iMagic, you've got Demon Attack. Cosmic Arc. But even then, you got your classic Ataris like Missile Command, Berserk. Oh, Chopper Command for Activision, too. Hero. Hero is one of the ones that... Ah, come on now. Hero is one of those games that is a gem and a half that I think amongst certain people it ends up getting its due. But it's kind of shocking that it didn't do better than it did. Then again, the Commodore 64 version of it's a little bit better anyway. Come on now. Yeah, timing. That's a solid point. Solid point. I was gonna say name a bad Activision game, but there's some of them that are definitely lesser than others, I guess. The Venetian blind demo that they did. But I don't think that was ever officially released, though, either. Except later on, like the Activision Classics and such. Bridge. Just a card game. It's not that it's bad, it's just... There's a twofer. How about... And it's a completely different style of game, but one of the other things that I've considered doing for this channel is some of the old text adventure games that I've never passed. Zork's, like the Zork series is amazing. But I've never actually beaten them. I know all I have to do now is just look up the strategy guide. I could solve it pretty easy. But I think even doing that on Twitch opens it up where people will start giving you solutions. And I wouldn't necessarily want those. So I'm not sure if I would want to live stream that or not. Could be fun, though. Yeah, exactly. Might as well read the guide and call it a day. I finally went through years later, and I beat Myst. And that was a very satisfying feeling to have beaten Myst legitimately. But it was also one of the first times in years that I ever had to break out pen and paper to beat a game. It was incredibly satisfying. Where you're actually taking physical notes. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it really is. That was made basically here in Spokane. I'm in Spokane, Washington. And Meade, Washington is just north of Spokane. It's like a Yeah, basically like a suburb in a way of. I was pressing up, hoping that that would slow me down enough, and it did not. But no, that would be the thing, is if I did Zork, and even if I opened it up to the chat, it's only my own fault if someone does spoil it at that point. You can't exactly say spoilers for something that's decades old. Definitely redoing that. But I could definitely see someone... Feed them to the Gru! Yes! Very nice. Alright. Here we go. Alright. I'm not even trying to get to world record levels on this one. I really would just like to break 100,000 on it. I've done 90,000 plus before. I know I'm capable of it. Just gotta get in the zone. And I love the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book series, so I would love to actually also beat that one. Although the little bits that I have heard from that is that some of the solutions are things that would not occur to a person in a million years without even just having some of the stuff that comes along, like with the box and everything. The only text adventure that I remember beating on the Commodore was Fahrenheit 451, and that was also quite satisfying. It was Telarium that made that one. So it was text, but there were some pictures. Oh yeah, cheap things like that. Sierra used to put the things in the required the book. Yeah, hint book, no clues in game. Yep. Yep, and I'm trying to think of, like, I think Airborne Ranger was one of the games where you had to have, like, the decoder in order to know how much fuel to put in your jetpack. You had to have the instruction booklet. So that would maybe be just one of the things. It's like, yeah, I'll play Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I'll make sure that I have on record everything that came with it. It's like, okay, this box came with it, this came with it. Like, study that stuff. Alright. Almost about 1/4 of the way there. I don't think I've lost a life on this particular run-through. Doesn't feel like it, at least. There we go. Now I am 1/4 of the way to my total. My goal. Yeah, I like that. Jump there, jump back. I don't like the spacing of that. Yeah, Sierra would have actually sold more copies of the hint book than legal copies of the game, I imagine so. Oh, are you kidding? Alright, reset. Again. I may have to call it here. I may have to try to call it. Like, I've got the King's Quest series on Steam, too. My wife has suggested, with the number of Steam games that I've purchased, like, through Humble Bundles, I've got thousands of games, and I've only barely played a very small percentage of them, is to do a similar thing to, like, Steam Train, where you just, you know, play games that, you know, you've bought and not played yet, and make use of them. Between that and these retro ones, which I just enjoy playing, of course. Part of it's nostalgia, you grow up with it. But I love a good high score game, for that matter, arcade action. Whoop. So that's the part that I keep forgetting, is to use the Solar Sailor to my advantage. It's right there. That was dangerous already. Drop down. Really? There you go. Take it. And go. I like it. Let's go over here. 14,000. Really? Okay. Bagman is amazing! I love Bagman. And on Commodore 64, they called it Bagit Man. B-A-G-I-T Man, for whatever reason. I don't know if that was like a legal distinction or something where they could get away with it. But yeah, that was a fantastic game. I'm not very good at it, but it is along those same lines where you've got to use them to safely get to certain parts of the... Like, I've never been particularly good at that game, but I've enjoyed playing it. That is a classic game. Love that one. Dropping the bags of money on the guys' heads. Great stuff. That's from the era where you go to Chuck E. Cheese and actually have games like that, and Xavius, and Pango, and all of that. Yeah, I gotta start using that. Clearly, this is part of my strategy that's gonna get me there. Yeah, you know, I've never gotten past level 1 myself. Like, I love Bagman, but I don't think I've ever passed level 1. That'd be a really great... I know it's on MAME. I've played it on MAME. Aha! I mean, and how crazy is that, where it's like this game that you call it fun, you figure it's really good, and yet you'd never pass the first level. I've had some of these ones, like for the Commodore 64, there's one called Scrolls of Abaddon for the Commodore that I quite enjoy. And it was fun to play it on an emulator where you have save states, because it's difficult enough that I could never get like super far in it. And even with save states, it turns out that it's so difficult that even save states don't help that much. Like, they help out a ton, but not enough to where it's like, I'm going to see the end of the game ever. Yeah, no, that's a solid choice. That might be one that I would have to say that I would love to try to see if I could get past level 1 on that myself at some point. Yeah, I've got a number of go-tos as well. Moon Patrol also, clearly, one of the best ones of that era. That was actually another thing that I had not considered just now. Until just now, is you can use that I/O section in the center as a way of getting to safety. I feel like a winning strategy will use that wisely as well. Drop. Just that point, you're just anticipating there's a tank coming. And as much as I love Burger Time, I'd say that I would have to say the Intellivision version of that game might be the best version, even above the arcade. Not necessarily the controls, because, like, for that, the dial is not the best, but even with the dial, it's just such a good version of it. I actually prefer the Intellivision one to the arcade. And I can't say that about many of those classics that... I can't say that I played the Game Boy one. I'd have to check into that. But again, I think nostalgia plays a part because I grew up with the Intellivision Burger Time as well. Nostalgia can play a major role in such things. Alright. Alright, here we are. Okay, now I've really got to start being smart about this. There we go, using the Solar Sailor to my advantage. That was dangerous, I'm not gonna lie. Also dangerous, and it was not a smart move. I've grown to appreciate some of the classic arcade games for the fact that the name versions can't quite get it exactly. Is ones like Tempest, where you've got that dial control. And there's not, to the best of my knowledge, there's not a really great dial control on the market that can emulate that. That can emulate the way that that feels in the arcade. Same way with Tron in the arcade. The combination of the dial and the that shaped controller. And Star Wars, for that matter. Like, some of them have those proprietary controllers that just make the experience that much better. Like, where it's a great game, but part of it is the unique controller in the arcade. Alright. Let's see what we can get here. Drop. Paperboy, yes. Exactly. That is a primo example of that. Okay, we need to take this out. Run. Oh, that plays me. Are you talking about Burger Time? The Atari version of that? I can't imagine that would be... You know, I think I have actually played it on the Atari, and I was like, yeah, this does not stack up. But I think Mattel made it, though, too. It's probably... Was it an M Network game? Because that seems like they... It's the same way that the version of Donkey Kong that was put out by Coleco was not great for the Intellivision or the Atari. Both of those versions of Donkey Kong are not amazing. And there's been a thought of whether or not that was intentionally done on Coleco's part to sell more ColecoVisions. And honestly, from a business standpoint, it wouldn't have been the worst idea for them to do. Whether that's considered shady or not, it's partially smart business. Makes sense. Yes! I'm not keen on jumping tanks, by the way, but maybe that's part of the winning strategy too. There it is. It's that. Ah! Okay. I'm still not done trying, but... I imagine. So the Burger Time Atari cart's an engineering treat. They put a bunch of extra RAM and chips in the cartridge to make it as good as they could for the Atari then. Wow. At a time when it would have actually been not cheap to do so, I imagine. Like, I've heard, like, I will say, at the time, growing up, I enjoyed Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. I was on a waiting list for it, and back then, I don't know that I expected games to play exactly the same at home as they did in the arcade. I can see why people were disappointed by it. It is inferior, clearly. But at the time, I just wanted to be able to play Pac-Man at home, and I could do that then. So it's like, yay. But then you see how much better Miss Pac-Man is. And part of it is because the guys that actually made Miss Pac-Man in the arcades is the guys that made the Atari version, too. So it doesn't hurt when you have the actual people who made the arcade version working on the Atari port as well. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'd heard about, where they went with the 4K chip because it was less expensive. That's rough. And having to change that, and it makes sense why you have things like the flickering and everything at that point. If they made them, if it was already up to 6K, and then concessions had to be made. In that regard, it's amazing that he even got it done. I met Todd Fry in person at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo and told him how I'd been on a waiting list for Pac-Man at a young age, and he apologized to me. Oh, see, I hadn't heard about the blue background being mandated to him. Considered the burn-in risk. That makes sense. Wow, yeah, now that starts to make a lot of sense why the decisions were made with that. But no, he apologized to me when I said I was on a waiting list for it. But I told him, I said, at the time, I just wanted to be able to play Pac-Man at home, and I could. So I didn't think it was that bad. I think he really appreciated hearing that at the time. Like, he kind of lit up. Like, saying, yeah, no, it seems to be... But the first thought now is that, people are going to... If they're mentioning that, the Pac-Man, it's going to be to talk about how terrible it was. And for the time, I thought it was perfectly fine. And like you say, there's charming things about it even then. I've thought about going for the world record on that one, but it seems like it was utterly ridiculous. It was like 10. I was going to try, and I realized, oh, this is going to take well over 10 hours to do this. Based on scores being what they are. Yeah, some techniques used by people who had rewritten it didn't exist at the time. Hard to use tricks that didn't exist, yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, that's the beauty at this point, is anyone doing homebrew has the distinct advantage of not having those same limitations and hindsight of being able to potentially take like a lot of great tricks and code that flat out didn't exist at the time. That just weren't known. So in a way, it makes sense that people would be able to do fancier versions of it now. It's like when you look at E.T. and the fact that Howard Scott Warshaw only had 5.5 weeks to make that game. The fact that he completed anything at all in that period of time is nothing short of a miracle. But the fact that he came up with this innovative game that has an inventory, a map, like the stuff that he did, where Spielberg was just saying, dude, why don't we just make like a game like Pac-Man? That was all he wanted for it. Like E.T. picking up Reese's Pieces. Oh, wow. I'm catching a glimpse of what you're saying there. Best Pac-Man memory. My grandmother actually was one who really played Miss Pac-Man and played very well on it. And Asteroids, for that matter. But it sounds like she'd been playing the game. Yeah, next morning she was still playing the same game and her score was insane. That's so fun. You gotta love that. The Atari really was for the whole family is the thing. I think that's one of the things that the new in television is trying to get right. Where they're trying to make it more of a family machine too. Oh yeah, the cube world on that for sure. And I wouldn't have got the world record on it had I not started to understand how that cube world worked. Although I still haven't looked up how to do the Easter egg on that game. Here I have the world record. I've never done the Easter egg. Where you can find the Yar and Indiana Jones, the other two games that he made up to that point. And out of 8.5 hours of gameplay, it did not happen naturally. I'll say that. This is dangerous territory. Break here, come on now. Okay. Yep, that's going to be part of it right there. That's clearly how we're going to beat this. Damn it. Thought I had that. Okay, trying again. And part of me has thought about, like, I'm just going to look it up. Because if it didn't happen in 8.5 hours of gameplay, it's probably not going to occur naturally. But it'd be kind of fun to come across it naturally one of these times while playing it. But the Yar's Revenge one, I'm kind of glad that it was described to me how that one went on. Because that's a game ender. If you accidentally do that Yar's Revenge Easter egg, your game's over. Definitely going to do that. There we go. So when I had the Yar's Revenge world record as well. But then someone watched my game of that and were inspired to try, and now I have the second best score in the world on that one. But I'm pleased that the person who ended up beating my score saw my score and it inspired them to try. That was very nice. They didn't have to stop by and say that, but they did. Yeah, you would think you broke something as a kid if you saw that. Or like when the game glitches when it's only partially in there or whatever and it fries. And you get hidden levels that aren't supposed to exist. Love that sort of thing. feel like I'm just on the cusp of getting in the zone on this. Could be wrong. Yeah. I got 23,000. I don't know if it'll help for me to think of these in, like, percentages. I feel like when I did get my 90,000 or whatever it was, in my 90,000s, I think I was starting to think of it in percentages. Oh my goodness gracious, yeah. Schoolyard rumors, and then when you had the gaming magazines that even actually contributed to that with April 1st rumors and stuff, like, what is it? Beat Resident Evil 2 this many times with that A rating and you get Akuma unlocked. Yeah, do these ridiculous things and it unlocks this. And then it turns out to be true for the Easter egg for adventure. Which I don't think I hung out with the right crowd on that, because I never heard about that back in the day. It wasn't until years later that I heard about the Easter egg in that game. Ah! There it is. I imagine Tacoma would not be a hotbed of elite gamers, but then again, you know. Who knows? Alright, there you go. 40,000. Not quite halfway there. But I'm getting there. Still sticking to the idea that the sooner you can get to the top and get these, the better. They're spacing them very nice for me at the moment. And I'm not really taking advantage of it like I should. That's dangerous. I wanted to take that, but it was... Oh, this is also dangerous, though. Okay, we're going to take that, drop there. Okay. Ah! Come on. There. 6. Alright, let's be smart about this, please. Take this. Jump, drop. Okay, there's that. I need that one. Nope. Get neither of them. Got one of them, actually. Drop. Just anticipating something coming there. Better to play it safe. Drop. Wait. Drop. Okay. And there we go. This. There. Alright, halfway there. Let's take that. And you. I don't know if that's safe. Oh, lucky. Lucky. I was thinking, I don't know if that's going to time out well with the Solar Sailor there. It seemed dangerous. It was. Yes! Alright. Try not to jinx myself, but this feels like the one. Okay, I'm gonna be smart about it. Come from the right. Yes! That's what I need! Alright. Okay, try you. That's not gonna time out well. Yep, taking my chances. Jump up. I don't like this at all. There's why. I'm just going to do this with the grid bugs. Take my chances with them instead of the tanks. Okay, I'm going to do this. You know what? That. Don't like that. I don't like that at all. Really don't like that. Okay, come on. Alright. Dangerous. Drop. And there. Whew! Alright. I'm gonna get this time. I'm pretty sure of it at this rate. Oh my goodness, I hit the wrong button. We are taking this one and getting out of the way immediately, though. Don't know if that's going to work out to my advantage there, yeah. Solar Sailor seemed like it was going to be a bad move there. Drop. And hope. Yep. Needed that. Oh, I thought I had them all. Thought I had them all. Did not have them all. Get it? Okay. 7/10 of the way there, basically. Alright. I don't like this at all. Don't like this at all. Alright. And the Solar Sailor is really slow right now. But that can work to my advantage if I'm smart about it here. Drop. Yes! Okay, yeah, let's drop this. Go over here. This. Yeah, that solar... I'm pretty sure the Solar Sailor is going to be the way that I make this work. Especially since it's not on the last level, but the next to last. That works out really nice if you use the strategy to your advantage, I think. That was just brutal. Alright. But I may be mistaken, but I think that may also be my first death. Alright, so let's see what we got here. Oh, well, that may not be good timing. Okay, that was work. Oh, yes. Take it. Just don't. Oh, no. Alright. Yeah. Okay. Don't get psyched out. Don't get psyched out. Alright. Taking the Solar Sailor for sure. Partially just to give myself a breather for a moment there. There. Drop down. Okay, 80,082. This is probably the best I've done this evening, anyway. No, I don't like the timing there. Really don't like the timing. Damn it. I was not smart. 82.8. That was a really good one. Looking at the ER in the Easter egg, ET is not something you'll discover playing competitively. It requires some suboptimal actions. Okay, got it. That makes sense. I will eventually look that up, I swear. I know it has something to do with the flower, more than likely. Because I believe the flower... Yeah. Okay. I was in the zone there. I really was. Taking a ride on the Solar Sailor at this point in time is especially kind of just nice because it's so much faster. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I feel like I am still close enough to on the edge of like in the zone like that it may make sense for me to at least keep going for the moment. We haven't reached diminishing returns just yet. But I did not expect a tank that early either. or 2 of them. Okay, that's bad. Here I'm talking about the whole in the zone thing. I seriously figured that I was safe. There's no tanks yet. Clearly there's tanks. And that threw off my strategy a little, not gonna lie. When you think, oh, there's no problem. Now that I think about it, I think the first tanks show up as early as like 7,000 points, perhaps. It's another thing I need to consider keeping in mind, because I seriously didn't think they'd be coming up when they did there. And I've heard it pronounced Mr. Do, but Mr. Do is another classic. I discovered only a few years ago for the first time that the Super Nintendo version of Mr. Do is 2-player at once. And I feel like had that existed in the arcade, like if Mr. Do had been a 2-player simultaneously co-op, or even competitive, that would have been a killer. Yeah, no, it's so cool. It's the fact that you can have 2 people playing that at the same time on the same screen is nuts. Opens up a whole new world in that game. That was just... Okay, I'm not allowing that. That is too early to lose a life. No, and for the TI, you mentioned Hunt the Wampus. That really is one of the must-own games for the TI. And I think, I don't know how popular it was, but we grew up with it. I think Amazing is one that holds up pretty well. With the mice and the cheese and the mazes. Holds up surprisingly well. For a while there, I was doing a show called Trav Versus, where I had my friend Travis playing a number of these older games. And one of the funnier unreleased episodes had them playing a bunch of TI games, including Hunt the Wampus and Amazing. And their reactions to those were pretty hilarious, actually. They were getting pretty stressed playing Amazing, especially with the fast cats that pounce. That was stressing them out, but good. And I got a very good laugh out of that. Alright. And I realize now I've actually picked up one of them that I've not played yet. To even... no, I think I played it a little bit to test it out, but I haven't spent much time on it for the TI. It was Tombstone City. And of course, ones like TI Invaders and Munchman, which are clearly Pac-Man and Space Invaders, but they didn't have the rights to the name. Because Atari had the rights, I've come to realize since then. Which makes me wonder, with your Odyssey 2, was KC Munchkin one of your go-tos? Makes sense. Makes sense, for sure. Casey's Crazy Chase. I don't even know that I've heard about that one. There was one of them that I only just got my first Odyssey 2 a few years ago. And I want to say the one is called Monkey Shines. 2-player at once, if I'm not mistaken. Crazy fun. I've only played it like the one time with a couple of people. Obviously, with COVID being what it is, I'm not, you know... My wife is not much of a gamer. But, I'm just about to the point where I'm going to have, like, maybe have her try some of these older ones and have us do them on stream. Because if nothing else, her reactions to some of these are pretty fun. She's more of a Tetris player. Really enjoys Tetris and The Sims. And Animal Crossing now, though. I did get her into that. Yeah, absolutely. With retro games and casual gamers, I think that's, again, I think that's where the new Intellivision system that they're working on is going to try to do that. To really focus on that section of gamers that are not gamers at all, just like casual gamers that don't really have much in the way of home console stuff released for them. I feel like they may have a winning formula in mind if they can ever get it released. Their demo of Moon Patrol is phenomenal. Like, the new Moon Patrol that they made is really ridiculously fun. I'm genuinely looking forward to what they come up with if and when they're able to release that thing. I know it keeps getting pushed back because of COVID. Yep, I like that. That I can work with. Come on now. Nope. That was just a bad jump on my part. No way around that. There it is. There's something to be said about just having one button. Yeah, and that's kind of what at least with the new Intellivision, the Amico, I think that's what they're gunning for. Is it's meant to be a new category of system, which is more in line with what the retro consoles were, where it's made for casual style phone gamers, and especially like people who are in the same room at the same time. Yes, exactly. One button is great unless it's Double Dragon. It's funny. Growing up, I thought I would love to own a copy of Double Dragon, like the real arcade game on this one. I want to own a real one of those someday. And now you can play it on MAME. I really liked Double Dragon Neon. I tried that. I don't try a lot of modern remakes necessarily, but that one I did, and I greatly enjoyed it. I tend to enjoy them when I do make time and do it, but I made time for that one, and I was glad I did. Good humor, well programmed, a lot of fun. That was actually unintentional. Did not mean to press it down there, but I did. Probably good I did, though. Oh, that's bad. I had a feeling I was not going to be able to jump that guy. Come on, 40,000 more. We can do this. Oh, really? That was my own bad. I can tell it's a bad jump. It just... There. Oh, did they do a remake of Karateka? That's fantastic. That's... Talk about a underappreciated classic. And Jordan Mechner was... genius, to say the least. between that and Prince of Persia. If he'd never made anything else, he wouldn't have to make anything else. Those two are just so good. We're just going to have to do something here because this is getting a little relentless. Time to do it! That's nice when they do, like, I may have to grab that while it's still there, though, because, you know, with rights being what they are, there's always that distinct possibility that it eventually goes away for good if you don't grab it before they decide it's not worth redoing the licensing on it. Because Double Dragon was one of those. The arcade version that they had of Double Dragon that was just the original arcade version on Xbox Live Arcade. I think there is another one that got released after that, but it was a it was arcade perfect, but then they had one where it was just like slightly enhanced graphics. And then the company that made that version went out of business. So now the only thing that I grabbed before they went out of business was the demo. I hadn't bought it, and then I regretted not having that. But again, I think since then they've probably re-released it by a different company. And then there, of course, there's the main version. Nice. Yep, no, I waited too long on that one, and that was a lesson learned. I don't know if you ever ended up trying Game Room. Game Room, I was obsessed with, and I bought most of the games that were available. Oh, yeah. That's seriously cool. The fact that Mechner even led the team that made it, that's got to make it worthwhile. I gotta restart. I bought most of the games that were available on Game Room, with one exception. One of our roommate at the time bought Food Fight on his account. I was quite upset when the Game Room closed as well. I thought they had something very special there with seeing your high score rise in real time. You can still play those games, but you don't have like the main competitive, like the real draw was that the mode where you can't use any cheats and there's the leaderboard. That was so cool. And I was very disappointed for that to go away. But on top of which, Food Fight was one of my favorite ones to play, and I did not realize that it was my roommate at the time who had purchased it. And so I was able to play it because it was on the same console. Had I realized that it was on his profile and not mine on that one, I would have bought that as well. But alas, it is still playing on MAME. But I really enjoy that one. Yeah, I have Food Fight on the 7800 as well. And again, it's the guys that made Miss Pac-Man that made that game, too. I imagine you know the full story about that. But the whole lawsuit with Atari, and where they'd made a addition to Missile Command, like Super Missile Command that they'd made. Damn it. Where they'd made the add-on board. They'd made that add-on board for Missile Command. And Atari was going to sue him. Atari ends up saying, what is it you want to do? We just want to be able to make games. Why don't you make games for us? So they did. And it was most of... Yep, exactly, GCC. There you go. You know your stuff. You clearly know your stuff. But those are the guys that end up making Food Fight as their first game that they made for Atari. Where the story goes that Atari didn't think they were actually going to make any games or anything. It's like, really? You know, we basically just thought it was just hush money. Just don't make any other any of these other add-on boards. But then they sell that one extra add-on board, which becomes Miss Pac-Man. They didn't do too bad for themselves. I know just enough of the history of some of this stuff. I do find the history of these machines to be quite fascinating. As much as I love Commodore, it's like some of the brutal tactics that were used were pretty brutal. Specifically, when it came to putting in big orders for microchips, not paying their bill, buying the company, and forgiving their own debt. Something that they apparently did several times over. But then they pass the savings on to you. So I'm just going to go at this point and figure that there's not much that I have read about or know about the history of this stuff that you've not heard, and you've probably even heard a number of ones that I have not. At this point, that's just going to be my assumption. I did not see, now that's something I did not realize. I knew that they were involved with the Lynx. I knew that Jack Tramiel was involved with the Lynx. And I suppose it makes sense that they would use similar tactics. But I was not aware that they actually used those same tactics for the Lynx. That would have almost worked. That would have almost worked. Keyword is almost. Dangerous times here. There you go. I almost needed to speed up just that little bit more where I can move fast enough to get out of the way. Because I am at that point where I keep thinking I'm quick enough to get away, and then you're not. Go. There it is. Jump in. Let's get in the zone. Yes. That's what we like. Oh, epics. Oh, how I loved epics. Partners with Epix to sell the Lynx and leverage their way into owning everything and requiring Epix to make the game. That's probably one of the things that may have... I would imagine that that probably did not help Epix one bit. They really did make some of the best games for the Commodore. Between Impossible Mission, Jumpman, Jumpman Jr., all of the games series, summer games, winter games, world games, California games for that matter. They were a really... I would love... I don't know if there's been any sort of a documentary that focuses on Epix. The Street Sports Baseball, like the Street Sports series too. I would love to hear more stories about Epix and what it was like working there. As I'm playing with an Epix 500XJ controller for that matter. Like the one piece of hardware that I'm aware of that they had anything to do with besides the Lynx is this controller that's honestly one of my favorites of the era. It is my go-to Atari controller. Gateway to AppShy too. Yeah, they were solid. I love that you thought that might be what I was using based on the sound. Because, yeah, it's very clicky. That's the one bit about it is you can hear it very well. But then they made one for the Nintendo, and I can see how people, like, it worked really well for single-button games. I could see how trying to play Mario with one of these would be a nightmare. Come to think of it, I think I have one for the Nintendo, and I've never actually used it for the Nintendo. In one case, at least, I purchased one gentleman's entire collection of games that he had, because his wife was making him sell them. And I didn't know what all I was getting. All I was interested in at the time was his 5200 and his 7800. And little did I know, when he offered to sell me the Atari and the Intellivision, that it was several Atari 2600s, as well as, I think, a couple of Intellivisions, and a number of controllers and everything, too. So massive, massive collection that I got for a steal. Mostly because I didn't have much money. I came there just with enough money to buy the two systems. Like, I legit felt bad for the guy as far as that, but I think he was genuinely thrilled that the stuff was going to get use instead of just resold. And I've definitely gotten use from it, so. Let's just ride the Solar Sailor back and forth! Ah, that was it. Alright. Still go for it. Bet playing Popeye or DK with it would be awesome on the NES. You know, you're probably right, and I should try that. Maybe I will for the channel. Alright. I think I'm just about... not necessarily out of gas, but... we're not quite to diminishing returns, I don't think. However, also not far off from it. 1, 2, 3. All right. But I do believe it would be his 7800 that I got my Ninja Golf World record on. So, I ended up getting a second 7800 later. Which, again, half of this stuff is just like, dude, you want this? Sure. Pretty much not the way it works now. You can't really even hardly get good deals of that stuff on, even with yard sales and stuff now. It's become such a collector's market that... you're going to pay top dollar for most things. thankfully I was buying a bunch of this stuff at a point where they were practically giving it away, so... Well, is it? Oh yeah, the Starplex controller for the 2600. Okay, and I'm gonna restart this again. Asteroids button only controller. If you ever see one, try it out. Would also work well with track and field, and it's made in Spokane. Huh. I cannot say I've heard about that. I know that they had, for track and field, for the Atari 2600, there was some sort of a proprietary controller that was made for it. That was like a button style thing. So like I have track and field for the 2600, but I don't have the button controller that they made for it. I feel like Omega Race had something like that too. Starplex, though. Oh, I'll have to keep an eye out for that. One, two, three. Now that I definitely had not heard about, where they had the Omega Race had the joystick that slid over the Atari joystick and allowed you to twist. That's pretty darn cool, though. Like, I think I'd heard about the controller, but based on how you described it, pretty sure I've not seen one out in the wild. Now I'm starting to wonder if there's not going to be diminishing returns when I'm starting to yawn. We shall see. Maybe that's where the zone is near sleepiness. Oh, nice. I'll have to keep that in mind for real. Because I imagine that would be a really fun thing to try out. And anymore with homebrew stuff, it's really astonishing the sort of stuff that they can come up with. And of course, you can use a Sega Genesis controller on the 2600. I have come to understand that you do not want to use the Sega Genesis controllers with the Commodore 64, however. There's something about that controller and the 64 that makes it to where if you... oh, come on, really? Yeah, I'm definitely feeling like diminishing returns are starting to happen here. If you use a Sega Genesis controller in a Commodore 64, it fits, but apparently there's something that happens with it where it will burn out one of the chips in the machine if you use it for an extended period of time. That's what I had read, at least on message boards with people who know a lot more about that stuff than I do. I'm not sure about the reasoning as for why, but I've also never felt inclined enough to try to find out by trying. If there's even a possibility that using a Genesis controller could ruin my C64, I'm not using it in my C64. And yeah, no, it would not surprise me either. It's not made for it, so. Just because it fits doesn't necessarily mean that it should. And apparently the C64 is also kind of known for having power supplies go bad. So I did invest in a aftermarket C64 power supply that I've been quite happy with. Oh, the chips, wow. I did not know about that with the ColecoVision, but I'm glad that you mentioned it. For some reason, I've not invested... Because you can definitely use Atari controllers in the ColecoVision. You just can't choose the game. Like, if it's a game where you only need to use a single button anyway. If it's a single button game, then you can do that. So what I've tended to do is I will use an Atari controller in port 1 on the ColecoVision and keep a ColecoVision controller in port 2 to pick the game number. Because thus far, my luck has been not great with Coleco controllers that I've been able to purchase. Like, I've purchased Coleco controllers a number of times only to have the controllers in terrible condition and where you can't really use them. More or less the same thing with the Super Action controllers that were used for, like, Rocky and, like, the Super... Oh, I didn't know about that with the Y adapters. That makes sense, though. What I have in there is a Atari 2600 adapter, like extension cord for the controller, to where I don't have to continuously unplug and plug into it. So I just keep that plugged in. And thus far, it's done right by me. But I would actually, it's not been high on my priority list or anything, but I wouldn't mind actually getting some good, legit Coleco controllers where I can play with, you know, the controllers that were meant for the system. And that's another one where I would have to say the home version of Zaxxon for the ColecoVision, I think I may like even better than the arcade version of that game. Hubert is also amazing on there. Smurf Rescue. But outside of the just amazing Donkey Kong on there, I'd say Zaxxon is just phenomenal on there. And it seems like back in the day, it was also super expensive for whatever reason, too. Zaxxon was, like, way more expensive than the other games. And I'm not quite sure why that is, but... I mean, it is solid, though. Okay. Last one for sure, because otherwise I'm definitely... Definitely feeling like I'm not going to do better than I've already done this evening. If I don't at least try to get into them. I'm just lackadaisically. Half-heartedly trying it. Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. It probably did have an extra chip. That would not be surprising at all. And, like, if you play the Atari 2600 version of Zaxxon, it's just completely embarrassing in comparison. It was fine for what it was, but... And again, Commodore 64 version was pretty good, though. But once again, I'd have to say I probably prefer the Coleco one on that. Poor man's River Raid. Boy, you are not kidding. River Raid is so great, though. I haven't spent much time with it, but I have River Raid 2, I believe, in my collection. And I've been meaning to sit down and give that one some love at some point, just to see if it holds up in comparison. I imagine it probably doesn't, but it could be one of those hidden gems, too. Pretty tough to top the original, though. It's so slow. Alright, come on now. There we go. I bet if I watched the guy that got 1,000,000 points on this, I'd probably be able to just see tactics that he used, where it's like, oh, now it's easy. But where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? Yes, no. Oh, Montezuma's Revenge. Okay, so, love that one. Played it on the Commodore 64. Recently discovered that the original developer made a version of it for Steam. Just this week I discovered that. Just earlier this week I discovered that, or last week I guess now. I've not played it yet, but I purchased it as soon as I discovered that it was available, and I think the guy's only charging like less than $5. And it plays just like the classic old versions of it. Yes. Yep, the original guy, original developer for Montezuma's Revenge put it out there, and on Steam, its regular price, I think, is $5 or less. And I think there might even be like a graphic enhanced version of it too. So you can play it like exactly as it was, or you can play a graphic enhanced version of it. And it's less than $5 to buy. Yeah, very cool. I just discovered it last week. I've not played it yet, but I'm really looking forward to popping that one in there. I think it's the 5200 version of that one that goes for big bucks. Just like Bounty Bob Strikes Back, which is insanely priced on the 5200. I love some of the games on the 5200, but that controller... I will say, that controller is amazing for missile command in games like it. But games like Pac-Man, where it's just four directions, oh, it's a nightmare. Alright, here we go. So... yeah, I'm pretty sure this is my last run no matter what. I've said that before and been a liar. Oh my goodness gracious, are you right about Breakout? Breakout, any games like it where you're supposed to be using a dial, kaboom, without paddles. Like, that was one of the things that I thought that they got wrong with Game Room, is you've got ones like kaboom in there. And it's like, how are you supposed to use a 360 controller for that? It's just not remotely right. And I feel like anyone that didn't grow up with that and knowing that it's paddles that you're supposed to use for that would think that that game is terrible. It's amazing with paddles. That was my own bad. And I feel like that may be the single biggest missed opportunity that I've seen for the new Atari console that they made. Is you've got these Atari games that are made, but as far as I've seen, they've not made a paddle controller. And if some of those games are going to require paddles and you're going to use a joystick for that, no sale. I will keep my original. That was my bad. Alright. Really? Okay. Come on now. Up. Okay, here we go. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that at all. That was an intentional done time, I will say. That was not. And there. Whew! Yeah, no, the moment that they sell one of those for MAME, even like MAME style stuff, where it's just an inexpensive USB paddle, I'm there. Front of the line as soon as I know about it. As it sits, they've made the Atari 2600 adapter. Damn it, I knew it. I knew that was going to be bad. Yeah, that's going to do it for tonight, I think. It's definitely going to be diminishing returns. But no, you're exactly right. If there was anyone that could have and should have done it, though, it would be the new Atari that they've made. Why on earth they didn't have paddles right out of the package? That one edition might have been like, okay, I will put my money down. I might have even considered doing a pre-order on it. I don't do pre-orders, but I would have at least been more excited about it. As it sits, like, what's the point in it? Like, what can you do with that you can't do with any other system besides maybe some exclusive games that you might put out on it? And if any of those are killer apps that make me need your system, I probably can wait on it anyway. Because I've got a backlog of games to play as it sits. So, yeah, I'm going to call it, severe missed opportunity. And I imagine they could still do it. So, like, if they were to make a paddle controller, not to mention, like, with ones like Indy 500 where you have the drive-in controller. Of course, the only game that they made that supports the drive-in controller is Indy 500. And then they homebrew Indy 500 XE. Yeah, I'd consider one at that point, but otherwise I've not seen enough for it that have made me want that. It's a Linux box, yeah, there you go. Even if they use the ones for the Retron 77, exactly right. Exactly right. No, we're clearly on the same page here, Brassbit. All right, thanks for watching. Thank you for communicating on that, too. I imagine there may have been points when it was distracting, but, like, in a way, I think some of my best scores that I've ever done, like on Miss Pac-Man, my best one is I had one of my friends talking to me while doing it. So I welcome the chat. Let's put it that way. I do not blame you. The fact that I did not reach 100,000 points, I do not blame you for that. That was I can ignore that if I want to or need to, but that was fun. Thank you. And with that, we're going to call it a night. Good to meet you as well, Brassbit. Have a great evening. I'm going to stop the stream from now, but I imagine I'll be back over the course of the week or month or whatever. This has been fun enough that I'll continue streaming here and there. Have a good one.